So lads, let's just be honest about what's really going on here. This whole the players want to strike narrative, it was never that simple. The 97% strike vote, that wasn't because 97% of players were desperate to cancel a season. That vote was about solidarity. It was about leverage. It was about showing the league we're united, but actually want to strike? That's a completely different thing. The reality is this. The majority of players do not want to lose a season. And the reason is simple. For 30 to 40% of the league, a strike could realistically mean retirement. And that's not an exaggeration. People forget why so many players used to go overseas in the first place. It wasn't for fun. It wasn't just for love of the game. It was because the WNBA alone didn't pay enough to live on. Let's say a player makes $70,000 in the WNBA. Then she goes overseas and makes another $50,000. That's $120,000 total. And when you're overseas, your housing is covered. When you're in the W, a lot of your living expenses are structured. Now suddenly, that's a livable income. And that's for lower tier players. Some overseas leagues don't even pay that much. In certain countries, the going rate is literally housing covered and maybe a small monthly stipend. That's it. So when people act like everyone's making massive money outside the WNBA, that's just not reality. These players are not millionaires. And here's where it gets interesting. Reporting from respected journalists like Annie Costabile has pointed out something key. Even within leadership circles, there isn't unanimous enthusiasm for actually going through with a strike. There were reports that only about half of the player leadership reaffirmed willingness to strike if necessary. Half. That alone tells you this isn't some lockstep, no doubt movement. Minds are changing. The closer you get to real financial consequences, the more complicated it becomes. Then you add in agents. More than 10 agents representing multiple players reportedly reached out to union leadership offering help to get a deal done. Now think about that. Most agents represent several players. That could easily account for 30 to 40% of the league indirectly pushing for resolution. Agents understand the math. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If a season disappears, there is no magical plan B waiting for most players. Yes, stars will be fine. Caitlin Clark will get paid wherever she goes. If some startup league appears, she's getting millions. No question. Maybe a few other top-tier names cash in big too. But what about everyone else? New leagues don't start with CBAs. They don't start with guaranteed middle-class contracts. They start by paying stars and filling the rest of the roster with whoever will take the lowest offer. That's how investor-driven leagues operate. If the current league collapses, the likely scenario isn't everyone makes more money. It's top 5 to 10 stars get massive deals. A handful of recognizable names get solid contracts. The rest, fighting for $20,000 to $30,000 deals. And suddenly, players who could have had 8 to 10-year WNBA careers are working 9 to 5 jobs within months. There are only so many spots in off-season leagues. Only so many overseas contracts. Only so many roster positions anywhere in the world. People talk like alternatives are endless. They're not. And here's the biggest point. There's no realistic short-term scenario where canceling a season automatically results in higher pay across the board. The only guaranteed short-term outcome of no season? No income. Long-term? Maybe it works. Maybe betting on the entire future of women's pro basketball pays off. Maybe a new system emerges that pays 200 players a $200,000 minimum for 10 plus years. If that happens, fair play. That's legendary. That's generational. But that's a massive gamble. Because there's also a very real possibility that women's pro basketball regresses, that it becomes like the pre-WNBA era, where you play college ball and that's it. No stable pro structure afterward. This isn't just betting on yourself. It's betting on the entire ecosystem of the sport surviving chaos. And that's why the situation isn't about folding or winning. The players have already multiplied salaries compared to earlier eras. Minimums have jumped. Mid-tier deals have grown. The financial trajectory is upward. The real question isn't pride. It's risk tolerance. Because talk is cheap, but missed seasons cost careers. And I don't think enough people are acknowledging just how many players would be in serious trouble if this thing actually blows up